important one is you, young lady. Are you ready?
No pressure.
Don't worry about him. I'm worried about you. You all right? You ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Okay, I'd like to call the December 5th, 2024 meeting of the Casa Grande Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Please, everyone please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance Okay. Would you let the record show everyone is in attendance today, this evening? And are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Chair, but I would like to introduce our new administrative assistant, Erica Davis. Erica will be functioning as the secretary to the commission and preparing your minutes and taking your roll call votes, and so happy to have her, and want to thank Kathy Zapata for filling in for us for the last couple months, and while we were able to recruit and hire Erica.
Great. Welcome, Erica.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll try not to be too confusing.
Danielle, wasn't she already here once?
We'll throw you a curve or two. That's just the way we are.
I'm being reminded that I should also introduce Daniela Warren, our assistant planner, who will make a presentation tonight. She was here last month, but she
Yeah.
didn't get to make the present. So.
Great. Welcome. Okay. Commissioners, we have minutes in front of us. October 17th, November 7th.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we, on the commission, approve the minutes of October 17th, 2024.
Second?
Very good. I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, make another motion
Thank you.
to consider the approval of the minutes of the November 7th, 2024 meeting.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You all right, Erica? You getting these? Okay. They're coming fast. All right, very good. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes, all approved. This is the public comment portion of our meeting. Anybody from the public that would like to address the commission, not on things that are on the agenda, just anything else that you'd like to address the commission with, I'll be glad to hear you. We cannot respond to these comments, but we may be able to direct staff in other ways to help with the situations. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Would anybody from the public like to address the commission? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. We are now at new business. G1, we'll have a public hearing, consider a request by Felix Garcia Arenada Jr. on behalf of John Neiman, a conditional use permit and the associated resolution for automobile washing establishment, 355 West Florence. Daniela, here we go.
Thank you. This presentation pertains to DSA 2400177. The applicant has applied to the City of Casa Grande for a conditional use permit for an automobile detailing service. My name is Daniela Warren, and I am an assistant city planner. This application for a conditional use permit and associated resolution to allow an automobile washing establishment at 355 West Florence Boulevard. The site is located at the intersection of Pinal Avenue and Florence Boulevard. West 2nd Street is to the south of this property. The site had been previously used as a car dealership. The current use to the east is a tire shop. The general plan designation for this area is downtown. The zoning of this property and surrounding properties south of Florence are B3 Central Business. A&G Auto Detailing is looking to lease space where there are existing facilities. There are no additional buildings proposed on the site. Currently, there are 2 entrances, an office building, and structures suitable for a wash bay and 3 prep bays. This site has adequate parking. Per 17.68.120B of the City Code, the following are the applicable criteria that shall be evaluated for a conditional use permit. Staff has considered the criteria and found that the criteria has been met. The city has provided public notice of the hearing through newspaper advertisement, mailings, and a posted sign. Members of the public have had an opportunity to express their opinions. The city has not received any inquiries or comments. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve this request for a conditional use permit and associated resolution for an automobile washing establishment located at 355 West Florence Boulevard. Would anyone like to ask any questions?
Sure. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and address the commission? Okay. Then we will open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward, give us your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, what's your desires?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion
Thank
to
you.
forward a, we're forwarding it, correct? Approving, okay. Approving the request by Felix Garcia Aranda Jr., DSA 24-00177.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. Very good. Any discussion? Very good. Erica, could you call the roll?
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Aldred,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Aye. All right, good. Next on our agenda is item G2, to have a public hearing consider forwarding a recommendation to the city council, a request by Travis Taylor to change from commercial office to general business B2 for acreage on the south side of Cottonwood Lane near Peart Road. DSA 24-00178. James, talk to us.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. So as you introduced this item, we are talking about a zone change request for a property that's just shy of 5 acres located on the south side of Cottonwood Lane, near the corner of Cottonwood Lane and Peart. The present zoning of this parcel is commercial office, and it is being proposed to be rezoned to B2, which is our general business zone district. The applicant is requesting a zone change from CO to B2, primarily to come forward at a future time with a development request to allow business spaces for professionals and tradespeople, which would include interior storage and warehouse accommodations for individual purposes. That type of use wouldn't be considered approvable in the CO zone, but could be accommodated in the B2 zone. Generally, CO accommodates for office uses, whereas B2 has allowance for a much wider array of retail and other services. When considering zone changes, the primary thing that staff looks at is compatibility with what is surrounding the site, what other nearby zone districts exist, and what they have been approved for or being used as. So I just kind of wanted to walk through the surrounding land uses with you. So to the east, the property that sits between this proposed zone change site and Peart is a PAD known as Sonora Village. It was approved probably about 20 years ago. It currently sits undeveloped, but it was a commercial zoning that does allow for a variety of retail and service uses. And so the proposal for B2 on this 4.9 acre site would accommodate very similar commercial type businesses. And then, of course, to the north on the other side of Cottonwood Lane is the Canopy build-to-rent development that is part of the G Diamond Ranch Planned Area Development Zone. So it's a medium-density residential development. To the west of this site is another parcel that is also approximately 5 acres that is currently zoned R3, which is multifamily residential. And to the south is the Ironwood Commons Planned Area Development, which is single-family residential. So when looking at compatibility, the area that has the most concern is the area that is adjacent or abutting residential because of that relationship between commercial development and residential. Now, there's already compatibility measures that helps alleviate impacts already built into the city code. For example, there is a required 45-foot minimum building setback on commercial sites from residential boundaries. However, staff is recommending some additional conditions that will maximize compatibility with adjacent residential areas. One of the recommended conditions is that there are certain uses that we are recommending prohibiting, and that would be convenience food restaurants that have drive-throughs or convenience food restaurants that bring food to cars in the lot, convenience stores with fuel pumps, as well as hotels. And then another recommended condition is buildings or portions thereof within the southernmost 100 feet of the property shall be no taller than 28 feet in height. And then the third condition specifically regarding compatibility is that where adjacent to residential zone properties, there shall be a minimum of a 15-foot landscape buffer between the residential boundary and any building on this site. And within that buffer, the trees should be planted no further than 30 feet apart. When looking at the city code, the review criteria associated with zone changes are all associated with the city's general plan. We are under the 2030 general plan, and this area is within the community corridor land use designation, where both the CO zone and B2 zone are listed as appropriate zone districts. When we look at the tenets of the community corridor land use designation, it's designed to provide a diverse mix of uses and activities with an emphasis on linking pedestrian activity to the development with minimizing the appearance of auto-dominated areas. And so because of that, staff is also recommending a condition pertaining to signage. Any detached signage for the property shall be limited to monument style and design, not to exceed 10 feet in height. The rationale behind that is signs that are taller would really be to accommodate vehicular traffic further away. And so keeping it at a height no taller than 10 feet puts it more at a pedestrian scale and still viewable by vehicles, but not from a half a mile out. Specifically, though, there's 3 review criteria, again, associated with the city's general plan. The first one is the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the following goals, policies, and applicable elements. So one of the specific goals that speak to this request is to promote diverse business, retail, and office uses in the community corridor areas. One of the associated action steps found in the general plan under this goal is to encourage mixed-use commercial and retail structures to create a higher density of uses along major corridors. When you think about this location, Cottonwood Lane is an arterial road, and it would be appropriate to program commercial along arterial roadways. And this is seen as an opportunity for the B2 zone to provide a greater variety of businesses than what would otherwise be permitted within the CO zone. Regarding applicable elements, there are 2 that I want to talk about. One is guiding principle number 9, manage growth to ensure that essential infrastructure is available concurrent with new development. And guiding principle number 10, plan for growth that allows the city to provide urban services in an efficient and fiscally responsible manner. This area is really considered an infill site, given that it's along Cottonwood Lane. Cottonwood Lane in that area is already improved with 2 lanes in each direction, sidewalk, curb gutter. So development on this site will result in very minimal impact and expense on the city's part. And there's already utilities nearby, and so it minimizes the cost of maintenance of all this additional infrastructure if it had to be created from scratch, such as on the edge of the community. But regarding the relationship of this site to Cottonwood Lane does prompt me to talk about yet another condition that is recommended. Cottonwood Lane, given that it is an arterial roadway, it's designed for a high volume of traffic moving at relatively fast speeds. There's a need to minimize the number of driveways on the roadway. And if you look at this aerial here and the relationship of this site with other driveways in the area, I want to talk about the Sonora Village PAD that sits between this site and Peart Road. So if you notice, it was approved about 20 years ago with a lot of driveways. There would be 3 between this site and Peart, and that really wouldn't be appropriate for arterial roads. Think about all the brake lights coming on for vehicles to turn in. And so actually, if this site on the corner were to develop per what it's currently zoned, we would advocate for a lot of those driveways to not be developed. However, in the existing approval, it does accommodate for a driveway that is split between that proposed PAD or the approved PAD and this proposed property going from CO to B2 that I've clouded here. It identifies a driveway, and there's actually a recorded cross-access easement that would allow for access between this proposed zone change site and the Sonora Village PAD. And so there are some recommended conditions of record pertaining to access, and I do want to note that they've been modified from the staff report and elaborated upon. So the first condition associated with driveways is that there shall be use of the mutual cross-access easement located along the eastern boundary, and a provision of an east-west cross-access easement for the benefit of the property to the west shall be evaluated so that all of this property here west of Peart can benefit from that access drive onto Cottonwood. And then the sole access for this site to Cottonwood Lane shall be via this shared access easement with the property to the east. The third general plan criteria that I want to talk about is the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. So B2 is appropriate and a necessary zone district to serve this area. The surrounding residential areas can be reliant upon commercial services that get developed here. And while the commercial office zone is also appropriate, it's not envisioned as being along arterial roads. Rather, when you look at the city code, CO is more appropriate as a zone district between residential and more intense commercial that's along arterial roadways. We are recommending conditions to bolster compatibility measures between this area and residential areas to help make B2 as compatible here as practical. Regarding the notification process, we followed that which is required by code. I only had received one inquiry, and it was by a person who had noticed the sign. And their concern was about what impact would development on this site have on the traffic along Cottonwood. So with that, staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve this zone change request with the following conditions of record. And of course, again, I just want to note that condition number 6 has been updated from the time of the staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions for staff?
Just
Yes.
one. Jim,
Yep.
that Sonoran Village site, I don't know, it seems to me that a couple of years ago, somebody came to us with an apartment complex for that, and it was pulled and none of the records were even, the zoning wasn't approved. Is that the way that worked?
Commissioner Peters, you're correct. This, all of the empty land here from Pier West did go in front of Planning Commission for a build-to-rent zoning, and it actually was recommended to council for approval. However, it never did get approved. The application was withdrawn. So none of the zoning of this area changed.
Okay, so it went back to the original
Yeah.
PAD. Okay, thank you.
Chairman, I have a
Memory, yes,
question.
please.
The, Jim, just for clarification, the rear building setback, which would be adjacent to the subdivision to the south, would be 45 feet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, both that and the west boundary.
And the west boundary, correct. Now, I don't want to elaborate too much, I have that habit, but keep in mind there are certain conditional uses that are within the B2 zone that might impart different setbacks than the 45 feet, and we would evaluate it at that time. And if there were conditional uses specifically, depending on what was being proposed, staff and Planning Commission would have the ability to impart specifically tailored setbacks based on the impact.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? All right, very good. Would the applicant or their representative like to come forward, please, and address the commission?
Thank you, Travis Taylor. We appreciate Jim's thoughtful and comprehensive review of this project. His recommendations are acceptable to us. We appreciate this, and it seems maybe a minor thing to go from the CO to the B2, but it does provide a little bit more flexibility, and the definitions are a little funny in the code. So I'm sure you guys have grappled with that, but this gives a little more clarity and ability to move forward. We're excited to be able to bring something like this into the city. Hopefully it'll be a great thing. So we appreciate your consideration and ask for your recommendation of approval.
Okay, great. We got your name. Can we have your address too for the record?
1950 North, 2200 West, Suite 9 in Salt Lake City,
Great.
Utah.
Okay, any questions
Just one
for
question.
them? Yes, please.
The interior storage and warehouse, are you thinking something like a mini storage or?
Well, so the self-storage is a conditional use under the zone, but what we had in mind, and maybe we did ask for something like that, but what we mainly had in mind was flex space kind of things with an office, with warehouse, where, like a tradesman could come in there and there's a lot of people like eBay, when their spouse says, "Get this garbage out of my house right now." Find a place to put it. Things like that. Or small businesses, the wedding planner, the party planner. We've just seen, it's just hard to imagine all the uses that are in your community that need a space like this. You just don't know what they are until they start coming to lease. But it's surprising how many small entrepreneurial ideas need just a little bit of space that they can call their own.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Staff, anything else? Jeff? I'm sorry, commissioners, anything else? No. All right, thank you. Now I'll open the public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this item, please come forward, give us your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
I'd like to make a motion if I can, Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you.
I'd like to forward a recommendation to City Council for the request on DSA 2400178 with the stipulations that are written on our screen.
Second.
All right. We have a motion to forward a favorable recommendation to the city council. And a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Eric, would you please call the roll?
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Aldred,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you. Okay, next is, I think I'm looking at G3 DSA 2400173, a public hearing and consider a recommendation to City Council. A request by Stephen Burke from B1 to B3. Lots of zone changes. Okay. All right. Jacqueline?
All right, good evening, Commission. This request, a little background on the site, is approximately half an acre. It's located at the northeast corner of Olive and 8th Street. The current zoning is B1, which is neighborhood business, and the requested zoning is to B3, which is central business. And currently, the B3 zoning district allows for both commercial development appropriate to central business areas, including residential development with a conditional use permit. The applicant is looking at developing the site as a small infill multifamily site, and if zoning is approved, they'll come back with a major site plan and conditional use permit for that development. Here are the three zone change review criteria, and I'll be covering them in additional details on the following slides. The first one is that the action is consistent with the city's general plan, including the goals, policies, and other applicable elements. And within the downtown land use plan, the focus is on introducing housing and residential opportunities to downtown Casa Grande to take advantages of demand for desirable urban living. And the action step D5.3 is to be proactive with infill development in neighborhoods near downtown to insert new residential units into existing neighborhoods in an appropriate manner. And regarding rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified uses of the general plan. And the requested zoning to B3 is an appropriate zoning district in the downtown land use category per the 2030 general plan. Introducing additional residential zoning districts within the downtown area directly aligns with the goals, objectives, and policies of the general plan. And third, the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. And then per the recent housing analysis and direction by City Council and Planning Commission, staff is focusing redevelopment of sites for multifamily on the following: infill sites, projects using low-income housing tax credits, senior multifamily, and multifamily within the downtown area. This request would fill both 1 and 4 infill sites and multifamily within the downtown area. And again, if approved, the next steps would be for a major site plan and conditional use permit. But I do also want to note that if the multifamily doesn't come to fruition, it does allow for commercial uses as well that would be appropriate for the site. Regarding House Bill 2574, and before adopting any zoning ordinance or zoning ordinance text amendments of general applicability, the legislative body shall consider housing impact statements. And this zone change request is at the request of the property owner, and it's a zone change from commercial zoning that does not allow residential development to a zoning district that allows both residential and commercial uses. The B3 zoning district is the best zoning district for the site and could result in the provision of additional attainable housing in the downtown area. Regarding notification efforts, both staff and the applicant met all the requirements per the city code. I did not receive any comments or inquiries regarding the site. And with that, staff does recommend the commission forward a recommendation of approval to city council for the zone change request from B1 neighborhood business to central business B3 with the following conditions of record. And that is that the development of the site shall be limited to 2 stories, and that if the site is to be developed as one project, prior to construction, the site shall be replatted to 1 lot. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
All right. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Just my curiosity, how many lots are platted there?
Of course you it's 3 or 4, I believe. Let me see if I can, no, I can't tell in there. I think it matches what's north of the
Gotcha.
site.
Thank you.
So they could potentially be developed on those individual lots or be developed as one parcel, but if it is on the one parcel, a replat would be needed.
Okay. All right. There's no more questions for staff. Would the applicant or their representative please come forward and address the commission? Please give us your name and address for the record.
I am Stephen Burke, 1920 Malibu Drive, Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
I noticed that you have a restriction of 28 feet high, and the B3 would allow me to go to 38 feet. I've drawn maybe 10 different site plans for this site. I have patterned what I'm attempting to do here with a project I did in Apache Junction many years ago. It was probably the first multi-family development in Apache Junction. It was called Indian Summer, and it consisted of a set of 4plexes, 2-story each, consisting of between 1,000 and 1,200 square feet each. Most of them are 2 bedrooms, some 1 bedroom. It's more or less what I've attempted to do here. My problem is that the parking is very restrictive, and I would like to have at least 1 covered garage for each of the units. The plan currently is for 16 units. That would be 4plexes. My problem is that I need to have some way to get additional parking. The only way I can think of doing it is that the B3 zoning would allow me to put garages underneath the buildings, at least 1 garage for each of the units. That would allow me to not only have the covered parking, but also a garage parking, and it would require to raise the building by at least another 10 feet. The B3, as I understand it, would allow me to go to 38 feet without having to ask the fire marshal for additional permission. And that would work with the design that we have been looking at. It also gives me a better way to have the ingress egress from the unit My plan is to have a protection wall, 6-foot wall around the project with limited access. This plan that I am currently working with would not only allow these garages to be under the buildings, included with the buildings. Again, I would have to raise the building to 38 feet, allowed by the B3 zoning. But it would also allow me, I believe, to have access off the alleyway so that garbage could be collected from the alleyway and have a probably limited access, maybe just for garbage alone, that would be able to come in on the east side of the project with a private gate for their access, if that would be necessary. I have not been able to go any further with this design because I don't really know what I'm working with. The B1 is so restrictive with the limitations with not only setbacks but parking requirements that my understanding is that the parking would be, I would be allowed a 1.75 space for the single unit, that is a single bedroom unit. But by doing that, nearly all of the units would have to be single bedroom. And that would not serve the public that I intend to serve properly. I noticed that you have another category here that I probably would fit, and that is because I'm planning this for senior living. So this would be single multi-purpose, multi-housing. For these reasons, I really need to have the B3, but I also would ask that I be allowed to raise that restriction level from 28 feet high to 38 feet high.
Okay. Appreciate that insight. Any comments from the commission for a minute here? I'll open it up for a second.
Wouldn't removal of that condition of record have to go back through the city again? No?
We do it.
we could remove
We can start it here.
Chairman, I would like to note that the downtown land use category does allow for residential parking to have 50% of it being off-site. So they would be allowed to use street parking to meet the parking needs.
Okay. Is that helpful?
It would be helpful, but it wouldn't be desirable. It would not fit the, it wouldn't fit the category of a controlled area with limited access inside the facility with a walled facility.
Gotcha. Okay.
Suzie. So how many units are you planning on building?
Currently 16. It would be 4 fourplex units.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll certainly consider it. We'll, yeah, as we move forward, thank you for that. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, I think that's everything unless you have more questions for me.
All right. Thank you. I
Thank
think
you.
we're good.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead with the public portion of the meeting. Anyone from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Diane Kopp, and I live on 111 East 9th Street. My concern with the B3 is bringing extra traffic into the neighborhood. I've lived here for 9 years, and I've noticed, it's a lower income neighborhood. There's a lot of foot traffic on these streets, very limited sidewalks. I do a lot of walking. I have a lot of elderly neighbors that walk along the streets, morning, afternoon, evening, children out playing, a lot of bikes. My concern is bringing in extra traffic. I've already noticed in the last 9 years that I've lived here is a lot more traffic is coming off of Florence because it's getting busier, you know, because I'd like to see, you know, some growth in the area and some better growth for that neighborhood. But we're already getting a lot of traffic down 9th Street, a lot of speeding vehicles, people ignoring the stop signs. We're getting heavy trucks driving through there, semi-trucks driving through there, deliveries, and the roads are not maintained. Since I have lived there in 9 years, the roads have not had any work done on them. So we bring in more traffic on that road. Directly across from that property, there's single-family houses. I see children out there playing in the evenings. You're gonna bring more traffic in there. There's no sidewalks. You know, that's my biggest concern all around in that area. It's a quiet neighborhood. It's single-family homes, and, you know, there's just a lot of people biking and walking. It's, that's my biggest concern. As you raise it to a B3, you can have a lot more traffic in there. So I really take that into consideration with lack of sidewalks and people already not following a lot of the rules of the road. And just noticing around in there, Olive's getting a lot busier. So I would just like for someone to really pay attention to that whole area. You know, we've got a lot of use in here. It's kind of like a cul-de-sac area. I don't know, you know, what all that would entail, but, and there are other businesses. I don't think they're B3. I think they might be more a B1 or a B2, but something that would be more appropriate in that area. I think would be beneficial, because I hate to just see that lot sitting there empty, but I don't think B3 is appropriate for that area.
Great.
Those are my concerns. Any
Thank you.
questions? Any
No,
comments?
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to address this issue? Please come on forward. Give us your name and address for the record.
I'm Dr. Reed Burke. I moved to Casa Grande 4 years ago, taking a job with the Tohono O'odham Nation, and live and love Casa Grande. And I didn't originally live on 9th Street with my neighbor Diane. We just met before we started here. And originally looked at Casa Grande as just a place to sleep at night while I went to work. But as they say, a funny thing happened on my way to 9th Street. And I really fell in love with this neighborhood. And when I filed for my home, which I live at 116 West 9th Street, I forgot to say that.
Thank you very much.
116 West 9th Street. I realized that it's a first edition neighborhood. And suddenly I started feeling very proud about the neighborhood. And I looked at when it was built in the 1920s and got even more proud and started looking at the adobe building and the hardwood floors. And I love that neighborhood. I feel very protective of that neighborhood. And I don't want it to be hurt. But I also know the developer because he raised me. And I've built with him throughout my life and took me out to the construction sites. And I know what he does. And I'm very confident that this neighborhood's not going to be hurt by what Mr. Stephen Burke plans to do. He'll make it better. And we'll all be proud of what he's done. He won't hurt the neighborhood. We'll all be better off for it. So I'm in favor of it. I would only hope that as the city looks at other developers, that we look at their past history and that we, you know, understand exactly what they're building, because, as I say, I suddenly feel very protective of Casa Grande, and it's not just a place to sleep. So I really love this town and really want great things for it.
Very good.
That's really all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Anyone else like to address this issue? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to commission.
I have a question for Jim.
Yes.
Hey, Jim, on that, can we go back one slide? One more, I guess, but has, yeah. The property closest to where the roller derby was doing their thing, that auditorium, there's any action on that property? Because there's one house in between, and then there's an empty lot, correct? Between this property, where the Rock House was, and then there's a house, and then there's an empty lot. Is there any that went over to the right, just to the left of the box?
Sorry, let me go to that, the Sunday map.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go 2 more over. Yeah, right there. Is there any activity on that right now? Any thoughts of that?
I haven't seen anything.
Nothing? And then is the city still looking at doing something in the auditorium and all that stuff? And that's right next to it.
I can address all that. So, Commissioner Van Hayden, first off, the vacant lot you're talking about, I think the city recently bought that.
Okay.
We were looking at it, but to answer the broader question about all the properties around City Hall that the city does own, we right now are engaging in a campus master planning exercise to look at what we're going to do with all our property. Specifically, we're looking at, the auditorium, the Boys and Girls Club old facility, and how, what the best use is in the future for all our properties. So we don't have it finalized. Council has given the consultant some general direction to come up with some alternative uses, some alternative designs, but we are actively looking at that.
And there's that one house in the middle.
Yeah, the one that was the DNA engineering company, the small house, we bought that one for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yes, so, there will be some redevelopment of our properties, some in the future, but we don't know exactly what that will entail.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anything?
I
Yes,
just have a quick
please.
question. Are there any plans currently for the installation of sidewalks within the right-of-way where there's space in the Evergreen District or any of the neighborhoods around there?
So, great question. You're speaking to somebody who's a big advocate for sidewalks here. All new developments build sidewalks. So if this vacant lot builds it, they will build a sidewalk. Unfortunately, we have a lot of areas, specifically in this neighborhood, where it's already been developed and there are no sidewalks, which means the city's going to have to step up and probably add those sidewalks to future CIPs. I think it's likely we will do so. I've actually been looking at whether or not we can use some of our CDBG HUD funds to build sidewalks, because this neighborhood would qualify. So I think the short answer is we don't have active plans right now to build sidewalks here, but it's certainly something that I think the city will look at in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
I guess I kind of just have more of a discussion point.
Go ahead.
If we don't allow for the extra 10 feet, are we approving a project that's not going to be built because of that?
I'm sorry, say that again, so I'm.
So the applicant was asking for that additional 10 feet that the B3 allows to 38 feet. So if we go ahead and approve this with a condition for 28 feet, is their project essentially dead because of that? And so are we losing a project and not developing a site simply by not giving that 38 feet? And is there a way we could give that additional height to make their project work while also being sensitive to the neighbors around them? And I think we can do that through step backs and architectural variations that allow for that development of units over garages. But I think that would be more beneficial to the applicant than a blanket 28 feet reduction, or not reduction, but 28 feet height cap. That's just my opinion. If it's necessary for this site to develop, because I think it is a great place for multifamily, especially near our downtown. I think that's one of the reasons our downtown is often struggled, is we don't have enough residential down there. there's not enough people in that area to support any of the businesses that come in. The density just isn't there. And so I very much would like to see this site develop, and based off of what we heard from the applicant, it sounds like what he's planning is a very minimal 16 units, and it's supposed to be for seniors. That's really not a disruptive project, in my opinion. And so if we can find a way to make that project work and provide the garage space that is needed to make a more desirable project for the demographic he's looking to attract, I think we should work as a commission to find the best way to accommodate that. That's my view.
Appreciate it. Comments about?
Just along those lines, as the gentleman stated, B3 does allow for that extra 10 feet to begin with. So the only thing, this was just a condition that was inserted, which apparently it doesn't have to go back to them. We could just approve it and have that condition removed. I mean, I agree with Garrett. There's a lot of empty lots downtown, and they're just sitting there. This one, I don't know, I was down there the other day, and I noticed there was palm trees around it, and then I'm not sure if he's planning on working any of them into the project, but it is a desirable lot, and I think it would be a desirable project to put on that lot.
So let me ask the staff talk to us about this requirement for the 28 feet. What was the motivations?
So, a couple things. One, the existing B1 zone has a height limit of 30 feet. Two, the surrounding residential properties are mostly one-story, kind of low structures. We're just trying to keep the height of any new multifamily on this site in sort of proportional in terms of scale to what's around it to be more compatible. But a couple of points for your consideration. First off, the height in the B3 zone is actually unlimited. There is no max height in the B3 zone. Only thing our code says, if you're going to go over 35, you have to get fire department approval. That's because it was written at the time we didn't have much aerial apparatus. We now have. We can address buildings up to 100 feet with our fire apparatus. Tall buildings in the B3, which is our downtown zone, are appropriate in some locations. They would not be appropriate here. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that because you could only build residential in the B3 with a conditional use permit, Commission's going to have an opportunity to take another look at this. If Mr. Burke proposes to build residential, he would have to come back before you with both a major site plan and a conditional use permit. And at least on a conditional use permit, you have a lot of discretion as to what the height limit should be. So you're going to have another opportunity to look at this. And from a staff perspective, if this height limit is removed as a condition, which you absolutely have the authority to do, and Mr. Burke comes in with a major site plan and a conditional use permit, we're going to go through a public process. We're going to notify the neighbors, probably even hold a neighborhood meeting to talk about the building height and any concerns the surrounding property owners might have, and if it fits in or not. And so I can't tell you if our recommendation would be to support the three-story structure that he described tonight or not. It would be depending on that process. But maybe yes, maybe no, depending on how it's designed and how it fits with the neighborhood. But I can tell you that I don't think staff would have a big concern with removing the 28-foot condition this evening, just because we have ample opportunity to look at the height at the next stage of the development process.
Can you go back to the map? Yeah, that's fine.
This one? Or-
Yeah, any one's fine. So, right, so it's residential right across the alley. And catty-cornered to the north. The church is directly to the west. And it's I don't know its height, but it's.
28, probably 27, 28 feet high at
Yeah,
least, I
it'll
would
be-
think.
That'd be a 30-foot, so it wouldn't, as far as visually, it wouldn't be alone. But then to the south are houses and
Apartments.
those little apartments. I'm thinking out loud, is all I'm doing.
To help you think out loud,
Well, just 1 second. So the other one is the dentist office, right?
Correct.
There on the corner.
Correct.
And it's a single-story,
Correct.
pretty good size, but it's a single-story. Okay, thank you. What'd you get?
what I see when I see this zoning map is that area to the south, it's spot zoned currently. So I would see that area likely to transform in the future, and those lots to be bought up by somebody and rezoned, whether that's now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, there's going to be a transformation in this area that will eventually become much denser, much more commercial possibly. Yeah, and so I see that there is that residential that exists, but I do think that this area is going to be changing in the future, especially with the city of Casa Grande and our plans for our campus planning. So that is going to kick off some transformation, and I think that will bleed out into the neighborhood. And so I understand at the moment, 38 feet might seem tall, but I think, again, you can mitigate that height through however you design that building to make sure maybe its highest point is closest to 8th Street or closest to Olive, so that your impact is more so on the church rather than on any of the single-family homes. And so that's how I kind of view this area of our city and what its future is going to be. And in many ways, I would see this site and its rezoning as kind of that first initial step of transforming this area. And so that is just kind of how I see this and my opinion on what would be appropriate.
I'm on the other side of the fence.
Yep, talk to us.
Well, so I grew up on 9th and Lemberg, and to say there's going to be this huge transformation of this area, I just don't see it. I mean, those people that have lived on 8th have probably lived there for many, many years, and I don't see them transforming into this commercial type environment, multifamily type environment. But I think the property is developable at 28 feet. He just needs to build 3 buildings and not 4 to fit the parking. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Proceed.
But can you build a project with 12 units versus 16 units?
Look at
Does
the
it pencil
duplex to
out?
the south. Yeah, there's already a duplex that's along Olive right there that only probably has, I don't know, 8 room.
But when that was built versus construction costs now, it's significantly higher. And so that is where, if we start reducing the number of units that he can build on this site, which 16 units on this site it's a decent sized site for that, especially for the densities we're looking for near our downtown. And so that's where I don't think we should be hamming it up and possibly killing a project because of that.
Okay. Anybody know how many doors are in the apartments
I do.
just to the south?
There's 8.
Thank you very much.
Oh, look
I
at
used to
you,
own it.
Chris.
Okay. All right. All right, discussion. Anybody else? More, please don't.
I think we should just wait until we see what the plans are going to be before we approve 38 feet at this moment. Because like what Paul said, we can go up to 38 feet in this, so I just think we need to just table that until we see what the plans are.
We
can't.
Do this first.
we can change whatever we pass today.
Right, that's right.
We'll have another
That's right.
couple shots at it. Whether we take it off or leave it on, either way.
I mean, raising it to 38, I don't think we should at this moment.
Okay.
So just so I'm understanding, you're saying that we should remove it now and then vote on it later, once we have an actual more visual on the plan?
Or just keep it as is. I mean, because he's wanting to change it. I don't think we should change it. I think I'd rather see it. I want to see something coming to fruition before I approve something at this moment to 38 feet.
You'd rather leave that condition in there?
Yes.
To be clear.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Just,
I was
Yes,
just going to
sir.
say
Turn-
that
Mark?
if the condition of the 28 feet is left in there and they come back with, they will not be able to come back with a conditional use permit at 38 feet. Because they'll be violating, so I just want to make sure that's.
okay, well, thank you, I appreciate that. So we will not be able to override that. Is that what you're telling me?
Right, because that'll be a condition of their zoning, that they can't go over 28 feet.
Okay. I didn't understand.
See, I misunderstood. Well, then what were you,
So what I'm saying is,
Okay.
let's say you remove the 28 feet tonight.
okay,
When a conditional use permit comes back in, you can impose a height of 24 feet. You can impose a height of 30 feet, a height of 36 feet, whatever you find is appropriate in conjunction with your review of the plan, the major site plan, the conditional use. This kind of binds you, right, to nothing higher than 28, right? But like I said, is you have a lot of discretion when you review the conditional use permit to determine what is the appropriate height for the development.
So not only will it come before this commission for a conditional use permit if they propose to build something that requires it, but a master plan would also come before us.
A major site
Before
plan,
this
yes.
commission, the major site plan would come before us.
Right.
This commission, and the restriction could be put in
Correct.
at that point also.
Yes.
okay.
Because, I know Mr. Burke wants to build residential, that's why he's trying to seek a B3 zoning, and he needs a conditional use. But, if he decides the market's saturated for residential and he wants to build an office building here, the B3 zone allows for it, and, whatever the appropriate height for that office building might be, can be determined by the commission as part of the review of the major site plan as well.
Right, I just wanted to be clear that it doesn't have to be a use that has a conditional use. Permit, yes.
Okay.
Correct? Okay, I want to be sure I'm not saying it wrong again.
Right, if it gets rezoned to B3, any use in B3 can go there. So, like
Right.
Paul says, if something happens with this plan,
Right.
any use in B3 can be there. If it's going to require a conditional use permit, then obviously that will come back to you, and any major site plan on the property will have to come back to you.
Yeah, anything that they propose to build there would come back to the commission. And the height restrictions could be put in at that point. Correct? All right,
Okay.
be sure I've got it.
I'd like to make a motion.
Wait,
Hang on.
the gentleman wants to speak again.
You want him to speak again?
No, he's raising his hand. No. I don't care.
Okay, no, well, a little bit out of order. Is it important to you to speak to us again? I think so. Please make it short.
The B1 zoning would allow me to build 4 units and 4 buildings, in other words, 16 units. But the restrictions that are on the B1 are so restrictive that if it is a B1, then I have to design the project to the B1 regulations. If it is a B3, then I know what I'm building for. That is, I have less restrictions and I can present to you a plan that will work, that you'll be proud of, and it will be something that I can then go back to my designers and know that I have the ability to expand this project the way it needs to be done so that it can be built. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just for clarification,
Yes, Mr. Tyson.
the B1 zone does not allow any residential. Mr. Burke cannot build any residential under the current B1 zoning.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. We good?
I guess.
Member Peters?
You started, so.
All right.
If you, I mean, we'll let some of these other people do it, some of the other folks.
I would like to make a motion.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that the commission forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the zone change request DSA-24-00173 from neighborhood business B1 to central business B3 to City Council with the following conditions of record, with the condition number 1 removed.
I second.
Very good. I have a motion and a second. We clear on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes. Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
No.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Thank you. See the next steps.
Next step.
Okay, we're at G4. We have a public hearing. Consider a recommendation for city council the request of Stewart and Rendiersma Architecture for a zone change from R3 to PAD for high-density multifamily at, wow.
was out.
Man, it is.
Where am I? On Treckle Road, 2060 Treckle Road, DSA 24-00020. Jacqueline, talk to us.
All right, good evening again. This request, the project site again is a little over 11 acres. It's located at the northeast corner of Treckle and Courtson. The request is to change the zone change from R3 multifamily to PAD for high-density multifamily. The applicant wants to add 2 additional buildings, adding a total of 32 additional units. The community corridor land use designation allows density for multifamily up to 25 dwelling units per acre. However, the R3 zoning requires 2,000 square feet per unit and restricts the number of units to its current number. With the PAD zoning, the proposed density would be at 24.7 DUs per acre. And here's the conceptual site plan. The proposed buildings are internal to the site and would meet all parking requirements as well. Regarding the PAD review criteria, this is covered in the staff report. I'll be covering number 1 and 3. Regarding the interrelationship of the plan elements, just to note, south of Courtson, additional apartments are nearing completion with the Gavi House. Commercial development is to the north and west of Treckle Road. The site is zoned for commercial and multifamily. However, it's currently vacant. And again, the additional buildings will be internal to the site and will have little impact to the adjacent properties. Regarding the zoning ordinance, it meets the setbacks for the PAD residential design standards and meets the open space requirements of 20%. The site has a total of 27% open space. However, one of the part of the PAD residential design standards is that there is a 15-foot minimum landscape buffer along the area, and it would require it to be on the north and east side of the property. However, since it's already an existing site, they are requesting a deviation to remove this part of the residential design standards. And per the design standards, there are exceptions that can be made. One, that the development consists of proposed infill housing development that is typically surrounded by established residential neighborhoods. The neighborhood consists of an affordable housing project or there's a unique requirement. This site meets the exception under 1, that the site is existing and is surrounded by established development. Again, regarding Housing Bill 2574, the zone change is at the request of the property owner, and it's a zone change from R3 multifamily, which limits the site to its current density at 21.9 dwelling units per acre, and the PAD would allow to add additional 32 units. The PAD zoning district would be the best zoning district for the site to achieve a higher density, and would result in the provision of additional attainable housing for the city. Regarding notification efforts, staff and applicant met all the requirements. Since writing the staff report, I did receive one email that you received today. The email was just inquiring about the proposed project. With that, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the zone change request from R3 multifamily to PAD for high-density multifamily, with the landscape buffer exception to the PAD residential design standards, and with the following technical corrections and conditions of approval. I do want to note that these have been modified since the staff report. Technical corrections is to revise the PAD guide to address the landscape buffer exception, as well as requirement to add additional landscaping at time of major site plan to meet the city's landscape code. And I forgot, the conditions of approval is our normal right-of-way requirement for roadways. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
So Jacqueline, the open space in that project, goes from 20 down to 27 from what was it before they were going to have these two buildings? Because they're taking away a lot of their space, right?
I don't know what it currently is.
Quite a
This was
bit.
built in 1985, so
I know.
we don't.
Yeah, it's quite a bit though, I would think.
Yeah, but, so with the new development, it would be at 27%.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Jay? Can you go back to your setback map?
This one?
So they're requesting 15-foot landscape buffer area.
So per the residential design standards, they would be required to do a 15-foot buffer on the north and east side because it's adjacent to commercial and residentially zoned property. However, the site to the east is a school, so it's not used as a residential use.
Okay, so
And the north is the Powerhouse Fitness, is that what it's called? And the soccer fields.
And so their request then is to leave it, to have no buffer.
Correct,
no
to
landscape
leave-
buffer on those two sides.
Correct, just how it currently is.
Because there's nothing there right now, correct?
Well,
Parking.
Parking.
Street,
I mean-
sidewalk.
Oops.
There's no trees or anything, right? I'm trying to think about it.
that's my recollection. Okay, and then, but they will be required to add landscape buffering to the frontage on Treckle, the frontage on Courtson.
Yes, to meet
Anything else? I mean, it's not between the retail there.
No, just on their property.
Just
Yes.
across just in front of the roadway, not between them and the retail. Caesar's backyard.
Oh, I guess it would be,
Is that what I'm understanding? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
sorry, so I guess it would also include that, I forgot to add that to the image, so it would be both there as well.
Right, I mean, I thought what I was hearing was just the roadways, but then the map shows
So it
behind
would be
them.
everything in green? There would be,
Everything in green would be the buffer, landscape buffer would be added to it.
and everything in red wouldn't it not be?
So it would also be a deviation along, sorry, point out.
We're making this difficult.
Sorry. Sorry. Being a problem.
Everything
Oh, here we
red,
go.
no. Everything green, yes.
Okay, that's great.
I'm assuming.
Behind Little Caesars building, there would be a variance for the landscaping as well. That should be red.
Yeah, so red should be
Gotcha.
there.
Right, so it is just on Treckle, just on the frontage, okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
So we'll
Yes.
see this again for major site plan?
Correct, yes.
Okay, because I was going to ask the traffic question as far as the impacts, because I know it needs a right turn lane today. Clark.
100%.
Okay, so my question about the zoning to the, basically it's to the west. Right, so can you describe that to us?
West of Treckle, excuse me.
Right, so across Treckle, what's the zoning over there?
So that, so at the corner, the northwest corner of Treckle and Courtson is Elaine Farms PAD that is zoned for commercial and multifamily at the hard corner. And then surrounding that would be the Elaine Farms subdivision that is zoned R2 with conditions of approval. So it would be housing there as well.
Gotcha. And then catty-cornered is retail or commercial? Catty-cornered from, yeah.
That catty corner property is zone PAD, but we really don't know what the land use is because it was never specified. So
Wow.
it's PAD, it's gonna have to come back before you at some point for it to determine what the land use should be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was, I think, the first PAD that was done in the
Gotcha.
city that
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right, okay. Yeah.
didn't have any
Thank you
land
for
use.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
No.
All right. Would the applicant or their representative please come forward and address the commission? Okay. Don't see him. Do we see him? Yeah.
Good evening, Preston Johnson with SRA 360 or Stuart Rindersma Architecture, 515 North Indian Bend Road in Scottsdale.
Okay. Anything you'd like to?
I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned the border between the corner lot as well needs to be kind of beefed up with more landscape, is that correct?
So, no, the site,
Similar to the red lines on the
yeah, it would
adjacent-
be, it would
Okay.
need to be included in the landscape buffer deviation.
Okay. That was my only question.
In the deviation?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's
Any
it.
questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now, open the public portion of the meeting. Anyone from the public like to address this issue, please come forward. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
Chair, I'd like to make a
Yep.
motion to
Right.
forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for the zone change request, DSA 24-00120, from R3 multifamily to planned area development for high-density multifamily with a landscape buffer exception to the PAD residential design standards with the following technical corrections and conditions of approval as
Very good.
listed.
All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. Well, I got a little bit. I'm not real excited about this one because of the concentrations that we already have, and it looks like we've already planning to have at this intersection. And I just, yeah, my concern. I'm concerned with that, and just not excited about making that change. We're in place, buildings and, stuff are in place, and certainly have been a great addition to the community for years, so.
Why didn't we, yeah.
I'm not excited
Yes.
either, just because of the losing the green space
Yeah,
specifically.
those people that live there.
Yeah, and there's no public notification process to those tenants that may be residing in some of that area, where I'd love to see what their feedback is about losing that
Me too.
space. That's my less excitement.
Interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. Yep. Notification,
Yeah, why weren't they notified?
because they're not an owner.
They're not the owner.
It just goes to the property owner. However, signs are posted on the site, so they would
This is
have
true.
They would have an opportunity.
opportunity to reach out that way.
And nobody reached out?
Nobody read them.
Just that one email I received over the weekend.
And if we consider the open space that we're losing, we're still meeting the requirement, correct? Yeah, and we've already approved multifamily developments elsewhere that were less than 27%. And yeah, they're putting 2 buildings, you're losing some of that, but I think we also have to look at the quality of what exists there currently of that open space, and especially on that south building. That's going in an area, when you look at the aerial, it's all rock landscaping and sidewalk. I would not suggest that's a great place for you to really play. But one of the benefits that you're getting out of that is that playground that is currently there, surrounded by rock landscaping, is being moved to the north, where you have all the grass and turf. That's what the site plan shows. So in many ways, you're getting better open space through this development. But then additionally, if we don't allow this rezoning, I'm not sure when the next person's gonna come out to update this. I mean, you said it was built in 1985. That's 12 years older than I am. And so it is.
Don't go there.
And so when is the next time that a property owner is gonna invest a significant amount of money? 2 buildings is quite a lot of money to invest in a property. So when is the next time we're gonna have somebody looking to invest that much money and create a better apartment complex? Not saying it's bad or anybody that lives there is anything like that, but it'll be more, a much better way for them to maintain it by having that additional, those additional units who can bring in that additional revenue. And then additionally, as you mentioned, along Treckle and Courtson, if you look at it now along Courtson especially, it's 1 tree and a stump. And so if we don't approve this, when is that landscaping ever going to be put in? The streets are already improved, so is the city going to put in that landscaping? And so that's where I think we should approve this, because of that investment that is being brought into our community, but also just that it's appropriate based off the land use designation, a community corridor that allows it up to 25 dwelling units an acre. They're not at that, they'll be at 24.7, a little bit under, but again, our general plan suggests that's appropriate. And then south of this, on the south side of Courtson, it's a very similar, I'm guessing, I don't know the exact, I wasn't here to approve that one, the density on it, but I'm guessing it's a similar density because it's at 3 stories. And so just based off what's around it, it's, in my opinion, wholly appropriate, and especially because of the investment we're getting in our community because of it.
Okay, thank you.
My question is that we're putting 2 brand-new buildings in there, but the other ones are still 1985, and they could probably use a lot of that money than those 2 buildings could. I mean,
100%.
that's traditionally had a rough reputation, that apartment complex in this town. So I would think any effort to kind of clean that up would be more appropriate than building 2 more. That's me.
Exactly.
Okay?
Well, I agree with him. And they're moving, and how many play areas are they gonna have for this this huge unit?
Again, just to push back on something we've already approved, they didn't really have much more than what's showing. They already have a pool, a clubhouse, basketball court, a playground. We've approved things that just had pickleball courts and a sauna. And so.
I'm just saying, this is a family, so this should be geared towards family, and, they should be fixing this up, whether just putting in two new units. And traffic in this area is horrible. We don't need 2 more units in this area, I don't think.
From my look at it, what they're proposing, they're maintaining the amenities in the north section, covering up a really nice green lawn in the north section.
But they'll still have
Versus-
some of it.
Versus the southern section, as you point out, is a whole lot of rock, and which, it's still open space, but it's not near as pretty. That middle section is, what I saw is pretty. It's really pretty, but you know, there's 2 sides to every story. And that they're leaving some nice facilities, I think, but here we are. Any other discussion? I think we have a motion and a second. I think that's where we're at.
We already voted.
We did?
No.
No, we didn't even, we
No.
didn't make a motion yet.
No, I thought we
Come
had-
on, I'm confused.
I thought we were at 3 already.
There's no
Sorry,
motion
sorry,
yet.
sorry.
Come on, I'm confused, but I don't think we've already voted. Don't do that to me.
Well, I thought we got like halfway through the vote.
Cut it out. Oh my gosh. Any other discussion? Don't do that to me. Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith? No. Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
No.
Member Hubbard?
No.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza?
No.
Chairman Benedict?
Oh, it's not gonna matter either way. Yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. I would say, I always like to let the property owner do what they like. Doesn't matter, but it's a yes for me. Okay. How we doing? No, we have 2 more. No, we have 1 more.
Yeah, then we're,
Kind of big, so you can go with it?
yeah. Unless you want to break.
Yeah, I want a break. We're gonna take 5 minutes, 5-minute break.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm a little frustrated.
back to order. All right, next is the last one, G5. Have a public hearing and recommendation for city council for several requests by Ivanhoe Electric or north of Gila Bend between Montgomery Road and Russell Road. DSA 2400-164, 165, and 163. Jacqueline, please talk to us.
Right, this site consists of a little over 3,000 acres. It's located north of Gila Bend Highway between Montgomery and Russell Road, outlined here on the aerial map. It's part of the original Legends Planned Area Development that was approved and annexed into the city in 2006 for a large mixed-use development consisting of a total of 7,000 acres and was proposed to be developed as single-family, multifamily, and commercial development. However, due to the market and probably a lot of other issues, it never came to fruition. As you recall, we did a major general plan amendment was approved in June to change the land use from neighborhoods to manufacturing industry for about 3,000 acres. And so the requests tonight are for a minor general plan amendment to change the growth area from phase 2 to phase 1. And then another minor general plan amendment to remove Indian Valley Road and Clayton Road, or Cottonwood Lane, from the planned roadway network within the project property boundary. And thirdly, to a PAD amendment to the Legends PAD to allow for mining activities on 323 acres, of which a little bit of around 4,000 acres will be used for open space and conservation on the north. 400. Looking at the growth areas, general plan review criteria, here are the 4 or 5 criteria that's outlined in the staff report. Staff finds that this meets the criteria. The development of the site as a mining facility would require minimal city service expansion to accommodate the proposed use than the original proposed uses. And regarding the roadway, here's the general plan review criteria. I'll be covering the 2 highlighted ones. Regarding number 3, which is to describe how the proposed amendment enhances or has no net impacts on mobility and traffic congestion. This minor general plan amendment to remove Indian Valley Road as a principal arterial in Clayton, also labeled Cottonwood Lane, as a minor arterial through the Santa Cruz Copper Project boundary will have no impact on mobility and traffic congestion because part of the city is sparsely developed, and these 2 roadway segments are not heavily used, and other streets are available in the area that can be utilized. Again, at the time of the major site plan, a traffic analysis will be provided. And just looking at the overall roadway network, this site is within the yellow circle here. And again, there's going to be no negative impacts to the roadway networks. And the original proposal was to remove Courtson Road as well through the project site. However, that was removed from consideration at the request of the city. Regarding how to just describe in detail how any of the general plan goals and action steps are achieved by the proposed amendment, manufacturing industry goal number 2 is to mitigate adverse impacts from industrial users, and by preventing traffic through the Santa Cruz Copper Project site by removing Indian Valley and Clayton Road. Through the project boundary will allow Ivanhoe Electric to address this goal by adequately securing its mining operations and mitigating adverse impacts by ensuring public safety. Looking at PAD review criteria, again, here's the review criteria that's outlined, covered in the staff report. I'll be covering the 2 highlighted items. With regards to the city's general plan, again, a major general plan was approved in June to change the land use category from neighborhoods to manufacturing industry. I did want to note that in the staff report, I used an old map, and wanted to note that part of the Legends PD was also had a general plan amendment earlier this year south of Gila Bend Highway that is also now in manufacturing industry. Just want to point that out. And one of the goal of manufacturing industry 2 is to mitigate adverse impacts from industrial users. And action step 2.1 is to create effective buffers when industrial development is adjacent to lower intensity residential, office, or institutional land uses by using a variety of techniques. And as the Santa Cruz Copper Project is designed, Ivanhoe Electric will incorporate berms and landscaping along the edges of the property to help create an effective buffer and to lower intensity land uses that either exist or are proposed adjacent to the site. And manufacturing industry goal number 3 is to promote diversified types of industrial uses, industries and uses. Ivanhoe Electric is proposing to use most of the site to establish the Santa Cruz Copper Project. Copper projects can only be located where copper resources naturally exist. Casa Grande has a unique opportunity to support the copper industry because the resource exists within its planned area boundary. And development of the Santa Cruz project would promote diversified industry in the area, such as materials suppliers, fabricators, and machinists. And in addition, the timing is optimal as there is an increasing global demand for copper to support the global transition to clean energy. Regarding the zoning ordinance, Santa Cruz Copper Project proposes a copper mine and renewable energy generation area as an accessory use to that, which is consistent with the manufacturing and industrial land use designation per the general plan. Permitted uses outlined in their PED guide is to allow for copper mining and its associated accessory uses, as well as renewable energy as an accessory to the copper mining. Regarding the development standards, here they are on the right. We are requesting a technical correction to add a maximum height for the waste rock storage to the development standards table. And here is their land use plan internal to the site. Again, a portion of the site to the north edge is proposed to accommodate conservation area to help protect existing habitat and breeding area for burrowing owls, approximately 400 acres. And then this is just a closer up of their land use plan. Regarding House Bill 2574, this zone change request is at the request of the property owner and is a zone change from PAD mixed use development that had approximately 11,000 residential units to a PAD for mining activities. While the proposed PAD does theoretically remove a number of housing units, it is questionable if the number of units proposed had enough water availability to serve the site. Since the site never came to fruition, that portion was never looked at in more detail. And in addition, our recent housing analysis shows that city currently has adequate supply of housing being proposed, and there's also an economic benefit for the community in the creation of additional jobs. Regarding notification efforts, staff and applicant met all the requirements, and I did not receive any inquiries or comments regarding these requests. So regarding recommendations, first one is forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for a minor general plan amendment to change the growth area from Phase 2 to Phase 1. Second, it's forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for a minor general plan amendment to remove Indian Valley Road and Clayton Road from the planned roadway network within the project boundary. And forward a recommendation of approval to City Council for a planned area development amendment to the Legends PAD to allow for mining activities with the following technical corrections and conditions of approval. I did modify the technical corrections just to update the landscape section in the PD guide. I did discuss it in the staff report, but I wanted to make that a technical correction as well. And then our condition of approval regarding right-of-way. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? Oh, I have to ask this question. Any of those developments have cause?
So we believe that they did not receive cause, but it could be potentially in the global water area that serves the Maricopa. So they could have potentially been developed, but we don't know if they had adequate supply or not either.
Right. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Would the applicant or their representative please come forward to address the commission?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Gillespie. I'm a land use attorney with the Rose Law Group, 7144 East Stetson. Represent Ivanhoe Electric, and their team is here with us tonight. I'm really excited to be before you to a really exciting economic opportunity for the city of Casa Grande. Jacqueline, I do have a couple of slides, but they're real simple, and I'll summarize them quickly, which is the economic impact is very real from this proposal. They project $9 billion in economic activity that will be generated over the lifetime of this project. 750 real jobs created. 550 of those jobs are direct jobs with Ivanhoe Electric for our community. And then one of the key aspects that I just love that we talk about a lot in Casa Grande cases is conservation efforts, and Ivanhoe Electric has taken proactive efforts conserving 400 acres of the site for a conservation area for the burrowing owls and our environment preservation. So some really exciting things. Casa Grande is a leader in the state in copper projects, and we are excited to see the copper community continue to grow here in Casa Grande. With that, I'm happy to take some questions. I know I just met a neighbor who will be speaking tonight, and we're excited to meet Mr. Evans. And one of the key things here with the project, Paul Tice doesn't approve all the specifics that go into a mine, so there's some pretty extensive. This is kind of the kickoff point for the next year, where we go through a really robust process with environmental studies, water studies, and at the state level, and ADEQ and ADWR, and with Pinal County, to get a lot of approvals to really get into the specifics of how the mine operates and is sensitive to the water table, to the environment, and meets a robust set of standards at those levels. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Pretty complex.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of this. Yeah, and we will get into this, I think, in other meetings. That area down to the south, solar panels?
So as you note, Chair Benedict, there will be a major site plan process that this project would need to come through, and the specifics of the layout of the site would be determined at that point, and so you'd have another look at that. I do know renewable energy is an important part of Ivanhoe Electric's strategy and plan, so there's a possibility for solar to be placed there on this site to generate the electricity needed for the mining operations themselves.
Okay. All right, anything else? Yes.
Is any of the property in the floodplain today?
It's all.
I'm going to defer that one to Cammie Ballard, who's with Ivanhoe.
I see that large tailings pile that looks close to a waterway.
Yeah, please give us your name and address for the record.
My name's Cammie Ballard. I work for Ivanhoe Electric, and the address is 99 North Sackatone Street, Casa Grande. So, yes. So the infrastructure and the tailings is not within the floodplain. That's the plan for renewable energy down to the south. It is in some of the floodplain, so we would have to do floodplain permits and everything before we did anything with that. Okay. But the rest of it is outside of it.
Is outside of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So before you go, you do have a flood control channel. Does it run the north boundary?
The north boundary, yeah. So it goes just above where the green area is. There is a flood channel through there.
Where the burrowing owl space is,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Well, yeah, it looks like it's outside of their property.
It might be. I don't have the map in front of me, but the floodplain, it goes kind of at the southern boundary of our property through the middle. Oh, yay. So it, see the yellow? That's floodplain. And the blue. So.
I mean, it is in the staff report.
Yes.
Nice.
So I think we miss it except for a little area where the burrowing owls are.
Desert Carmel just right to the east of that?
Yep.
It is to the east of that, yes.
Yes.
Right,
Yep.
because the back
And-
portion, when we had that huge flood,
Uh-huh.
it did not flood, it just the front portion.
Yeah, and, yeah, well, that's, a lot of that discussion will come at further meetings, I am sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
No.
Like you said, this is just the kickoff.
Okay. Thank you.
More to come.
No, I'm fine, I was just trying to find.
Okay, all right, thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Now, public portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public like to address this issue? Please come forward, give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. My name is Kevin Evans. My address is 4237 East Kime Drive in Paradise Valley. I represent Val Vista Marketplace. We have a farm located to the south, and our main concern are adverse conditions that may affect us, primarily water. The water table in the area is critical for farming, and we don't know if the mining operation is going to interfere with that. Are they allowed to sink as many wells as they desire and potentially lower the water table or even drain it? We just don't know. We're all for letting a property owner do what they want with their property, but how it affects us, we'd like to sit down and go over a few things, such as what's going to happen with the ore that's extracted from the mine? Is it going to be processed on site or off site? How are they going to get it there? Is that going to put a strain on the public roads? Will road improvement be required as part of the project? And if so, as a surrounding property owner, would we be responsible for our pro rata share of those improvements? I wrote some questions down. Let me see if I covered them all. Is there any risk of environmental conditions in the area to the soil, water, air? What type of chemicals, toxins, contaminants, dust, smoke will be created by the project? Lastly, what type of improvements or what type of approvals, permits, or licenses are going to be required for the mining project and or solar installation? And have any of these projects already been, or approvals already been acquired, approved, or even denied at the federal level, state, county, and city, or even adjoining property owners? Have any of them come out in opposition? So that's all I have for this evening, if there's any questions.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else like to address this issue? Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman,
Yes.
it might be helpful if the applicant could explain the necessary permitting that's required at those levels
God.
without the acronyms, so that the public can understand that it's a very heavy process to get the operation going.
I was gonna say, how much time do they have to explain all
Well,
of
just
it?
quickly, nothing in detail, but it might be helpful to hear.
That would be great. If you don't mind, we'd be glad to take a few minutes for that.
I would be happy to. So we are located on private land, however, we are still required to go through the permitting process for several different types of applications for the mining process. We will have to get permits through ADEQ for water quality protection, aquifer protection, and mobile sources, things like that. We'll have to get permits through ADWR for dewatering, and we'll have to get permits through Pinal County for air quality. And those are all processes. And we'll also have to get a reclamation plan permit through Arizona State Mine Inspector, ADQ, Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. You said not to use the acronyms, I'm sorry. I'm so used to it. But we'll also have to get a reclamation plan for closure and reclamation, which will have a bond. The APP permits will have a bond associated with it. And all these will have to be in place before we can start construction of the operations. We're planning on doing a phased permitting approach in order to meet, timelines and internal efforts. We've already started the process with the city, of course, for the zoning, and we will have to get permits through the city as well, a significant amount of permits. And we are doing studies and gathering information so that we can prepare applications to submit to ADQ and ASMI and ADWR, hopefully either by the end of Q1 next year.
There's an environmental document that also gets approved, right?
So
that identifies some of those impacts that could happen.
So that is through an environmental impact statement, I think is what you're talking about. That's through the NEPA process. That is a federal process. Since we are on private land, we don't have to go through the NEPA process, but we will still have to go through public processes with ADQ, ADWR, Pinal County, and ASMI.
Okay.
Yes.
Right, so each one of those agencies that you named, those processes for those agencies, each of them will have a public portion
Yes.
that
Yes.
folks, they will be gathering and discussing those.
Yes, they will all, because these will be major permits, and each major permit will have a public process, a notification process, as well as a public meeting process.
Very good. And then, any other questions?
No.
Just
Yes.
one. This is, just for
Yes, sir.
clarification. Is this going to be an open pit mine?
No, this will be an underground, it's called underground long hole stoping, and we're contemplating a paste backfill. So we would put a lot of the rock back into the ground to, I'm probably not the best person to speak about this, I'm not an engineer, but we would put rock back into the ground so that it would be stable, so you wouldn't have subsidence either.
Okay. Any other questions for her? All right, thank you for that. And then, if I could, from our staff, what other steps will they be taking that will, again, have public input and would be before the commission again?
So the next step, if this is approved, would be a major site plan where traffic analysis will also be part of that as well. That would come back to Planning Commission for approval.
Right, so the traffic plans and several others will be addressed at that point. These particular things that we're addressing tonight, those specific questions that were asked earlier aren't addressed specifically in these actions, but will be as we go through the other public hearings that they're gonna have to go through.
Correct.
Okay? Is that good? I think. Okay, have I closed the public portion of the meeting? We're closed. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Or more discussion, whichever you'd
I'll
like.
make a motion. I would like to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council for DSA 24-00164 for a minor general plan amendment change from growth area to Phase 2 to Phase 1.
Second.
Very good. One at a time. Appreciate that. Any discussion on the motion and second? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Aldred,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
and Chairman Benedict.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and keep, good? Okay, then I'd also like to.
I'm waiting for the next commissioner.
All right, ready?
Speak up.
It's coming, it's coming.
Go.
Recommendation for minor general plan amendment to remove Indian Valley Road and Clayton Road from the planned roadway network within the project's boundaries. That's DSA 2400165. A positive recommendation.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to forward a positive recommendation to the city council and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Aldred,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
and Chairman Benedict.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, then I'd like to recommend a positive recommendation for planned area development pad, amendment to the Legends pad to allow for the activities, mining activities. That's DSA 2400163, a positive recommendation.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Second from Smith. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Aldred,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Yes. All right. Those, move on to, thank you all for that. Next. Oh, that's why we need to take a break, because he's going to talk for. Discussion on ASU Housing and Sustainability Project. Director Tice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been recently contacted by Dr. Mark Roslin and his research aide, Valeria Landano, about a housing and sustainability project that they're working on at ASU. And so I've handed out this evening a little overview of the project that they've provided with me. And as you can see from that, what they're working on is trying to develop an assessment tool to examine housing in the context of sustainability and climate resilience for Hispanic communities in the Southwest. As they've looked at that, a community to really use as a prototype for their study, they've identified that Casa Grande might be a good choice for them. And so they're considering Casa Grande with a couple other communities. But as part of the project, they would need a working group to guide them and advise them at certain aspects of the study. You can see here under the category of role of working group, the project is really a 3-year project, but for the next 4 months, from January to April, they would like to have a working group they can meet with to help them develop the measuring tool. And as you see, it says that they want to understand what's important to our community so they can make the tool useful and relevant. So they indicated that they thought that the Planning Commission with your makeup would be ideal group for them to get that kind of input and feedback from the community, given your diverse backgrounds and skill sets. So, but that if we agree to participate and if the Planning Commission agrees to be the working group, there is a time commitment. They're looking at that they would probably need, some time with the commission just to talk about this topic, maybe up to 90 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 meetings between now and April. And so if we agreed to this, I think we would either have to add them onto our agenda or do a special meeting to accommodate that request. So really, the purpose of putting this on your agenda tonight is kind of to gauge your interest in participating in this study, so that I could give some feedback to Dr. Roseland and his research aide regarding, whether or not Casa Grande really is a feasible community to engage with them for the project. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And so, so there you have it.
That's a big wrap up.
There you have it.
Will we have snacks?
Can we have snacks?
There it is.
At our meeting?
Hey,
I'm just
I'm
joking.
gonna gavel that one now. It's out of order. Okay. Commissioners, any thoughts? What's?
So they're wanting 4 to 6 meetings,
Yeah.
all in person, or can we do like Zoom calls?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I would have to ask them if we could do them virtual. I suspect we might be able to now, but because we're bound by open meeting laws,
Oh, that's right.
we would have to agendize them. But maybe we could, I'm going to ask our city attorney whether or not we could hold a public meeting totally via Zoom or Teams.
I know we allow individuals to appear in, electronically, but, I mean, it's gonna be hard if the whole group
No.
is appearing
About that, sorry.
telephonically, so, that's something I can research, but it's probably not the best idea when it comes to holding a public meeting.
I didn't think about that, sorry.
Well, and they're thinking about each meeting being an hour and a half. I guess I'm not encouraged to add it on to one of our regular meetings.
That's why I was thinking Zoom.
What's that?
That's why I was thinking Zoom.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that works. Then you've got a several-hour meeting. It's up, up to you guys.
They want the whole group?
To y'all.
Is that what they're?
They would, preferred that be the entire planning commission, right? Just more important, because each of you have unique knowledge of the community, right? So like for Mark, for you, you have a great knowledge from when your work was with Seat of Hopes and some of the, the neighborhood and housing needs for that kind of population. That would be very useful, I think, for your perspective in that regard.
Yeah, they're just trying to butter us up.
That's why I asked if there was going to be food.
Don't let them ask us about more apartments.
It's a trade-off.
Don't ask for more apartments.
Yeah, no more apartments.
Now, I did encourage Dr. Roseland and his research aide to watch tonight's meeting as a broadcast to sort of gauge your interest.
I noticed they're not here.
They're not here, but they will be watching the broadcast.
No guts, I'm sorry, that might have been taken out of.
I am happy to help.
Yeah,
I'm a Sun Devil, so.
Yeah,
I am too.
Well,
We need all
let's
the
not go there.
big
Let's leave that alone.
I'm right behind you. I'm a
Let's leave that part alone.
Do I wish maybe it was just like 2 special meetings rather than 4 to 6? That would be amazing.
So between January, so that's one a month,
Maybe.
right? If not more, right?
They mentioned they mentioned to me 4 meetings, right? Like one a month.
Okay.
During that time period.
Well, that's.
But if the you know, if the commission said, look, we can only commit to, no more than 3, I can communicate that back and say, the commission would be willing to do it, but due to time commitments, they could only commit to 3 meetings between January and April, and see if that was, acceptable to them or not. I mean, I asked them to prepare this document just to give you an overview of what their expectations were, but I think it's, feedback back to them is appropriate as well.
Any other? Yes.
So we're looking more or less, maybe, we would meet twice a month. First, our regular business meetings, during the first
Yes.
week, and then maybe the third week, we would do this.
Well, yeah, that'll be a whole nother step to me, is to my mind, is finding, okay, when can we all
Right.
commit to meet? That's a whole nother step here that, whole nother hurdle that'll have to be jumped over. Can you, what's the term I'm looking for? There's a college term for it. Deliverable. What's the deliverables that we're looking for? Right?
Right. No, that's a great question, Mr. Chair. The deliverable is going to be an assessment tool that we can apply at our local level to help understand a little bit more about the housing needs specifically of our Hispanic community in terms of housing sustainability and resilience, in terms of probably energy efficiency and those types of things. I can't really tell you exactly what the tool is going to tell you, other than it will be an assessment tool that we will be able to apply within our community. So their intent is to create a useful tool for Casa Grande as well as other like-sized communities, smaller communities that maybe don't have the resources to pay for more in-depth analysis. I can also tell you that separate from this project, because of a new state law, we're required to engage in a community-wide housing assessment and housing study, which we're currently working on right now at a staff level, because we have to submit it to the state by the end of the month. But we've also hired a housing consultant to do a deeper dive for us over the next 8 months on both, to look at community-wide housing needs and how, sort of a deeper dive than our housing supply and needs study has done. And this probably would be a nice complement to that work that we're having our housing consultant doing as well.
So they're looking for our input to the tool that will do that analysis. They're not looking to us to have the result, right? Have the result of that tool. Okay.
That's right.
And I'm not sure that makes a lot of difference.
But
to
it
me,
would be beneficial to have the staff's input prior to us getting together on that, too.
So in essence, they're using us as a focus group.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're doing, yes. And staff would, obviously be at the meetings, engage with you as a participant, but, the ASU team really wants to hear from you as commissioners what what you think the community needs are. As Commissioner Smith said, it's kind of a focus group, exactly.
Paul, what other communities are they looking at?
They did not share that with me.
Uh-oh. Okay, where do we go from here? What's your,
I have to support my school, so I will do it.
here we go.
I'm all in. It's ASU, I owe them, so.
Oh, boy.
And just, Chairman?
Yep.
And just know, we don't have to take a
Right.
specific vote or get
Right.
everybody's actual
Okay.
answer, because it's not on for an action item.
Right.
Okay.
Just trying to gauge the interest and then Paul can take what he's hearing and go back to ASU, and he can try to work it out from there.
Gotcha.
Just as a heads up.
Gotcha. No, I was just trying to get, because I assumed that if, it has to be a pretty good, a representative group of this board for it to work for them. So I was just trying to get.
Like
thoughts
Mark
on
said, he
being able to
and I are the
participate.
only ones who are retired, so we're available.
We're okay. It's okay with me.
You're not doing anything.
We're both available.
Okay, I'll tie up now.
They had like 8 meetings.
At least we get to turn to the majority of folks that.
Are you a vacant?
Yeah, I know. I know who they are. Girl, I know who they are, girl.
Just to
Any
clarify, my
thoughts
undergrad
on-
was ASU as well, so.
I've been to both, but I have my heart rests. Anyway.
I think it's a very worthwhile project, for sure. I think it probably is finding a common time when we can all meet. And so that's why I was sort of alluding to earlier. We meet on the 3rd week of the month as a group, whether we're meeting here or wherever we're going to meet. And I think that would probably work out best for everyone.
And I guess my mind says that, figuring out that available times is, their responsibility to communicate with all of us, to figure out a time that we can do it, rather than us trying to figure it out today. We'll let them figure that out and proceed with whatever their invitation process might be. I think I'm hearing, pretty positive waves from the group. So, I think it's fair to communicate that back to them.
Okay, so, Mr. Chair, just to let you know that because, you're a public body, this will be a public meeting.
Yep.
If we engage in this, we'll have to agendize it. And under our rules, as chair, you would have to call a special meeting of the commission. So, I kind of agree with Commissioner Smith that it's probably better to have it as a uniform time, whatever the dates are, if it's the 3rd Thursday of, January, February, and March, or whatever, right? But I will go back to the group and talk to the ASU team, and then I'll come back and report again at your next meeting.
Very good.
Sounds good.
All right. We good with that? Director, got reports.
Reports, let's see. No administrative approvals of site plans. The Board of Adjustment did approve a sign variance for Kohler. And council took a number of actions regarding things that you had been involved in. Approved the re-subdivision plat for Elliott Electric, approved the PAD amendment for Mission Por Del Rio, approved all the text amendments that we had considered regarding ADUs and allowing manufactured homes as conditional use in some select R1 areas of the city, giving some relief on setbacks and lot area for non-conforming lots, and then also modified our process for processing rezonings to comply with a recent state law that requires us to process rezonings within a maximum of 6 months. So that's all I have to report. You do have your building permit valuation report and your land use project report as well.
All right. Commissioners, anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Yay.
There, She's taking over. She's taking over.
Yes.
Whatever.